Dig, kid, dig. Once the boy had selected a suitable shovel from his father's shed, Rock and Rutsnut led him all the way to Dolefield Farm, at quite an urgent pace so as not to miss the train's next raid. Arriving at the meadow, the fox slipped away to direct the cows, while the rook directed the boy to the rails, in the precise location the fox and he had planned. Darting about, shepherding the herd, the fox almost resembled a nocturnal sheepdog, if you didn't know he was in fact preparing these beasts for war. And here is how the cattle chosen for the upcoming strike, a select force of the most fervent and disciplined, managed to escape the enclosure without splitting a single grain of timber. A pair of the largest cows lay side by side flush against the fence, and the fox leaped upon their backs and over the fence in demonstration. Then with Berta leading the way, the animals hauled themselves upon their grimacing herdmates one by one and climbed over and out. Rutsnut escorted the animals across the track to take up position in the wood, though Berta walked instead along the fence line in the direction of the rook and boy, where that princely hoard was about to be unearthed. "The treasure is buried right here," said Rock, wedging his beak in the gravel between two struts to start proceedings, directly under the track. "This makes for a difficult dig, but helped the hoard stay hidden for so long, so we can't really complain. First we must take some precautions, though. It is said that the treasure lies at the base of a deep iron vault, but this vault's entrance hatch is not far below the surface and may well be badly rusted. We'll need to secure ourselves with ropes so that we don't accidentally fall through and break our ankles, or even our skulls." Ah, how calculating was this crowbird. The rook hopped over to the meadow fence and retrieved a leash from their stashed bag as the running fox now rejoined him, dragged out the rope and carried one end straight across the track. And to make the boy comfortable with the idea of a safety rope, Rock fitted the leash on Rutsnut and tied the other end to the woodside rail, but very loosely if one looked close. Then with the boy's help, the pair bound the torso of the child well until there was only a small length of rope left at this end, less than the track width. And so they tied this end to the woodside rail also, though in the process the boy became concerned. "Is that enough rope for me to flee if a train comes?" he said. "Of course," said Rock. "Plenty if you jump towards the trees. Any longer, and it can't save you from the fall, remember." Meanwhile, Berta arrived and lay down right outside the meadow fence by the other end of the rope, facing away from the train's approach. The boy looked over at the free cow, perplexed. "We've organized some help to carry the great hoard home," explained Rock, and the child now only seemed more impressed with the pair and their meticulous planning. With preparations complete, the dig could begin. "Let's get this treasure hunt properly underway," Rock declared. Between the track struts, Rutsnut dug. Rock scooped aside gravel stones and the boy shoveled furiously, looking around now and then for trains like an edgy fawn being tracked by an unseen predator. With the boy suitably occupied, the rook flew over to Berta and placed the other rope end in her jaws. She clamped it securely, with the line remaining loose over the ground for the moment. "So remember," said Rock, quietly, "imagine pulling a calf's tail, firm but not too hard. We can't have the child's ribs crushed. If you hear a crack, lighten off." And with all in order, the rook returned to the excavation. "How much further down?" said the boy before long, already through the gravel and becoming impatient. "Not much further," said Rock, and they continued to dig. "Are you sure this is the right place?" asked the boy a short time later, a sizable cavity at his feet. "We're sure," said Rock. The robin who revealed this secret seemed trustworthy, a local father with a number of broods under his belt. And my fox friend assures us he can already smell rusted iron under the surface and traces of gold. You know how keen that snout of his is, don't you? "Maybe I should be getting home," said the boy, breathing heavy, "and we can continue another night." "No," said Rock. "We can't give up yet. If we leave now, other treasure hunters will find this ditch and know exactly where to dig. By morning, all the treasure will be gone. Not a single gold piece, not a single shining jewel left. The lazy treasure hunter never gets the loot, my boy." And the rook went behind the boy's back, drew 2 more rings from under the feathers of his other leg and placed them on the ground, scuffing some gravel over top. These fine items had been confiscated from misbehaving clothbacks over the years and were now put to good use. "Look," said the crafty crowbird, "more treasure that must have been scattered during the burial, then mixed up with the track gravel." And the child turned and picked up these rings, wide-eyed, holding such pieces of princely treasure in his very hands, so close to the buried hoard, was all the inspiration he needed. The boy pocketed the rings, wiped his brow and shoveled on, with the endurance of hardy country stock. Finally, Rutsnut detected the rail hum and signaled Rock with a downturned ear, and the pair increased their noisy work to help smother this clue. But when smoke appeared, spilling high into the sky, the boy eventually raised his head and noticed the approaching train, though responded with only mild alarm, the naive thing. "Time for a break, my friends," he said. "Here comes the Midnight Express." "Wait, I'm stuck," said Rock, who had wedged his foot in a narrow gap between rail and strut. just beside the brace that attached them. The boy tossed the spade and reached down to help the bird. "Gently, or you'll snap my bones," said Rock. And as the boy tried to ease him out, the rook resisted with his wing hooking the rail to remain wedged. "I'll have to tug hard," said the boy, looking up at the speeding train. "We're running out of time." The eye-like lamp now shone forth along the track, blasting them all in blinding light. Rock cawed his command to Berta, released himself, and flew off the track. And the powerful moo beast, lids shut tight, heaved herself to her feet and pulled hard on the rope, wrenching laterally until both lengths of rope binding the boy pulled taut, trapping him between the rails. He tried to flee, scrambling and screaming, but was held fast. The fox yanked his loosely tied leash from the rail and bounded off into the woods where the bovine force awaited his final signal. In giving this, he dashed back across the railway to Berta. The meadow giants were soon edging into strike position, the imposing silhouettes amongst the trunks like a genuine battalion of war steeds, brass bells clanging like bronze arms of old. And in such a mode, the resemblance to the formidable wild bovines they descended from, herds forever at war with man and beast, could well be seen. And the crazed child slashed his arms desperately at the incoming train, face whitened not only with chilling locomotive light, but pure terror. A boy yet to snuff tin candles on a cake and already facing his own imminent annihilation. "This is going perfectly," said Rutsnut, diving down near Berta's tugging jaws at the fencing, as Rock landed on the crossbar there. Meanwhile, a number of Dolefield cows remaining in the meadow had broken their formation and become entranced, and the depleted guard crew were struggling to block their charges, though desperate to hold on just that little longer. In truth, the poor child risked being double crushed now, first by mad bovine, then by maniacal train. "Don't panic," called Rock to the boy. "The train will stop when it sees you're a stray child." And the pair did actually believe that. They might be murderous outlaws by the definition of some, but they weren't true demons of this world, the type who might enjoy binding an innocent child on a railway in the middle of the night, in the course of a steaming train. At least not if they thought the child would truly be rammed into market mints. Be fair. Remember, they were actually trying to save lives here that night. Then the moment came when Rock and Rutsnut both made a cautionary judgment of the train's speed and the distance remaining. They were very good at judging distance, being speedy hunters and speedy prey too. And they both came to the same unsettling conclusion. "This demented driver isn't stopping," said Rock. "Even for a child," said Rutsnut. "Then we best free him fast," said Rock. And he cawed to Berta to release the rope. But the sound of the nearing train smothered this signal, and the rope held firm. How close was this train? Close enough to blind and stun with light and sound alone. Moments away, just moments. Rock jumped down onto Berta's muzzle and pecked at the shield marking on her forehead like a spearman in battle, squawking orders loud as he could in between, until the startled animal finally released the rope from her hefty jaws. At the same time, Rutsnut sprinted to the child with the stunning speed of a rabbit snatch and tugged him by the overalls towards the wood. With one rope released, the boy leaped away, stumbling and tumbling beside the track, and the train roared through. The other rope was now severed, and as the carriages passed, the boy scrambled into the trees and slumped down against a trunk, in deep shock, still cocooned in rope. Rutsnut bounded over and joined him. And suddenly the engine smoke swung and slashed through the wood in a great column, barely over the heads of the child and fox, lashing the bovine ambushers behind, and moving so violently that it dislodged a wave of leaves and even tore some thinner branches. Finally, the last carriage had vanished, and the rook darted over the track and landed beside the trembling child. "We apologize for that little mishap," began Rock, "but treasure hunting is rarely smooth going." The boy now jumped up and fled, tearing at the rope binding his torso. "Demons!" he cried, turning back at safe distance and finally ditching the coil. "My father was right about foxes and crowbirds. You're all diabolical demons. And when I tell how you've tried to murder me and my little sister too, he'll be even more determined to hunt you all down to the last." With that, the boy ran home alongside the track. "We were just trying to save lives," cawed Rock, "but it fell on deaf ears." That might be understandable, but wasn't the vengeful talk of the boy going a little too far? The pair certainly thought so. When the child checked his pockets later, he would find 2 very valuable rings, not quite a princely hoard, but hardly an unsuccessful treasure hunt. And in an ideal world, he and his family should be incredibly thankful to rooks and foxes for enriching them like no people of the world ever had. It just went to show that cloth-backed apples didn't fall far from the tree, and were far more troublesome to steal than those regular ones rolling around the orchard.